everyone, this is Ben Dunn, your AP Sensei and founder of Anarchic Press, established in 1985, celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, and creator of such comics as Ninja High School, Warrior Nun, Marvel Mangaverse, Kendra, and hosted in Tomorrow Girl. So anyway, I saw this post on my Facebook page, and I thought it was very interesting and something somewhat disconcerting. Basically, it concerns a Japanese anime release that was made using almost 95% AI. So the headline reads that this is claiming to be the world's first 95% AI created anime, twins, Hima. Okay, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that or not, but that's the way I read it. And purportedly, it's received some very positive reception. Now, I don't know too much about this. I've never even heard about it until now. But according to this article from Anime Senpai, and apparently, twins Hina officially released in Japan on March 28th, and it was made with 95% AI tools. Now, I assume that the remaining 5% were human, interjection of some sort, but because it isn't specified, but I assume that that's what it is. So even 5% human interaction of some sort. Now, it's just 24 minutes, but the buzz it has created seems to be very large. Now, according to the article, it says that while some folks are unsure, the reaction has been mixed and in some cases more positive than expected, both in Japan and worldwide. Aside from the unique visuals, the show's story caught people off guard on how layered it was. And you see, folks, this is what I've always said. It's really not the technology. Now, of course, a lot of people will say yes, but it steals from other artists, and that's where the big bugaboo comes in. And yes, it is a threat to artists. I'm not denying that. Okay, but it's all about the story and the content. And I hate to break it to you, this is just a dose of reality. For the most part, people don't care where they get their entertainment from. I would almost guarantee that 90 to 99% don't care as long as the story is good and it's interesting, it's well made. The article further goes on to say the project was a team up between Frontier Works, a well-known anime company, and a newer AI-focused group called Kaka Creation. Now, isn't that a way of naming your company? Now, I could be mispronouncing it, but I'm reading it as Kaka Creations. While the 95% AI number is high, humans still played a part in shaping how it turns out. According to this, here's how the work was divided. Character designs were based on real-life influences drawn by actual artists using Clip Studio Paint, a computer program. Backgrounds, they used real photographs and ran them through AI to make them look more anime. Then artists cleaned them up by hand. Animation, most of the character movies handled by AI, but animators did do cleanup work, fixing expressions and smoothing things out. Effects, things like lights and sparks were added using common tools like Photoshop and After Effects, mostly by artists. So AI did a lot of the heavy work. Mostly, I assume, is the animation, because that is the most time-consuming aspect of any type of anime. People still came close. People were still needed to polish it. Now, this is interesting because it means that the technology is still in its infancy. Do you remember when the first CGI was used in movies and how wonky that was? And people didn't really think it had much potential. And then Jurassic Park came out and blew everyone away, and now now CGI is almost ubiquitous in almost every entertainment production nowadays. Very few Hollywood productions are made without some sort of AI being used. There's none that are truly, straight to shot into film. You know, some of it is a lot of it is post production. Now, I don't know much about the story, but according to the article, people had very mixed feelings about this. You know, the general consensus was a blend of surprise and concern. Many expected the worst from something labeled as 95% AI, but ended up being impressed by how watchable it actually was. Well, I mean, there's no denying it. Just looking at it, you could probably tell at first glance that this was probably made by humans. Yeah, but if you look in closer inspection, you know, you probably can see all the flaws. But who's going to sit there and look at it, you know, frame by frame when you're just sitting there being entertained? You're not going to pay attention to that stuff. One viewer wrote, honestly, thought this would be garbage, but it was decent. The animation was weird, yeah, but I've seen worse from human-led projects, and that's true. You know, the humans are flawed. We are not perfect. You know, we're not machines. We do make mistakes, and sometimes things made by humans don't come off, you know, as perfection. But that's what makes it charming. Sometimes it's the imperfection that makes something unique and different. Yeah. Another user commented, "It's scary how good it looked. Not perfect, not a train wreck either. Makes you wonder what next year is going to be like." And I'm totally in agreement. You know, as technology gets better and better, we're going to see more flawless AI generated content. It's just going to be the way it is. You know, my feeling is that the problem has always been about the stealing of other people's. Now, it's going to get to the point now where people can train their own AI. There's going to be programs out there where you can input your own work, your own material, you know, and make it your own. And that's where the tricky part's going to come in. If you create and train your own AI, is that the same as stealing from other sources? You know, I don't know. That's a slippery slope. You know, and if you train your own AI, what does it mean copyright wise? Will you be able to keep that copyright? You know, that's a question that only lawmakers can make. You know, because at any time, you know, lawmakers in any country can stipulate AI can be copyrighted or not copyrighted. It's totally up to them. You know, because we're a nation of laws and we follow what's legal. You know, one post did sarcastically say, "Oh yeah, totally can't tell this was AI. Just ignore the janky running animations, dead-eye expression, super immersive." They later added, "Hire animators, not interns, fixing AI-generated schlock." Well, you know, there's going to be feelings like that. People are not going to take kindly to their entertainment being generated by AI. But, you know, I hate to break it to you, it's already being done. And you might not even notice it. You know, and the thing is how easily can you fool the entertainment going public into thinking that this was human generated or AI? You know, because I mean, how's the credits going to look? You know, is the credit going to look in the end credits of a movie saying, you know, AI prompts by, you know, Bill Smith, you know, something like that? Is he going to get credit for that kind of stuff? Who knows? It may happen someday. You know, but anyway, this is just one of those things that is definitely going to cause a stir. If it's even monetarily financially successful, you know, then we are going to see a sea change in the way things are going to be done. You know, there was a question that was asked in this article: what could this mean for anime moving forward, or even animation in total moving forward? You know, I would put that out there. You know, the main point here isn't whether Twins Hinahima is great. It's not trying to be perfect. It's like a test run. And I totally agree with that. It is a test run. You know, the 95% AI started with a lot of serious discussion. Yes, I mean, you have to admit that was definitely something they wanted to get feedback on. They wanted to see how people would react. You know, some people are worried they might replace artists. Well, it's already happening. You know, you cannot deny that it already is in motion. Okay, it is replacing artists. And the thing about it, I always said, is that if you're an artist, you don't draw in a way that's easily reproducible. You know, if you think about it, look at Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, Jim Steranko. You know, AI doesn't pull from those guys because those guys are so easily recognizable that anybody can tell right away that was done by those particular artists. You know, if you want to be an artist, you have to stand out. You got to create styles that AI cannot easily replicate or can easily be pointed out. You know, if AI were to do a Jack Kirby style drawing, immediately people would say, "Oh, that's a Jack Kirby AI generated thing." Because first of all, Jack Kirby's not alive, and second of all, his style is so recognizable, it would not be easy to replicate. So if you're an artist, you need to create styles that is reflects you as an individual and cannot be easily replicated by AI. Now, not to say that were you to train your own AI, yeah, go to town with it. That's fine by me. I don't have a problem with that. You know. So what does this all mean in the end? It's a brave new world out there right now. Technology is improving every day, and things are going to be different. It's just like people of any generation or decade where things are have changed. When gunpowder was invented, when the first computers started to come online, when we sent rockets out into space, when Orville and Wilbur Wright flew the first airplane. I mean, technology is an ever changing march, toward the future, and whether it's good or not, it remains to be seen. Will AI replace artists? I don't think so. Because AI still needs humans. What AI is not generated to entertain itself. AI is generated to entertain humans. And as long as humans, either accept or reject it, totally is up to them. It's their decision to make. You know, all this hate on AI, I think, is detrimental. Instead of trying to hate on it, you should try to understand it. One of the things that you always say in a battlefield is never underestimate your enemy. Never, never underestimate your enemy. Know who they are, what makes them decide to do what they want to do. This way you can defeat it. That's if you want to defeat it. You know, use AI against itself. Make it work for you instead of against you. There's so many things that you can do that are positive, as far as AI is concerned. And all this vitriol and hate for it is, how does that benefit anybody? Because it's moving forward regardless. It's an unstoppable force that cannot be changed. Now, people are saying it's a fad. It's going to dissipate just like NFTs are. It says, no, the difference is that AI is useful. NFTs are not. Okay, NFT was just a way to make money and to convince people to collect things. AI generates results. Okay, and the thing about AI is that for the most part, it's very low cost, and it has the potential of making anybody who's clever enough and knows how to use it to create something not only entertaining, but could return a investment on that. Now, whether or not it can be copyrighted, that remains to be seen. He says, as long as there's a human hand in any type of AI generated art, I assume it will be copyrighted, that it can be trademarked. Now, if it's purely AI, then no, it can't be copyrighted, because machines are not people. And that's the way it should be. Now, what if it's the future? I don't know. It sure looks that way. I can almost guarantee you every single animation studio, every single person, would be animator who's looking at this are either going to look at this as a threat or as an opportunity. It depends on what you feel like it's going to happen to you. How are you going to take advantage of it? Are you going to be left behind? Are you going to be part of the boom, the coming boom? So, but anyway, that's just my thought. And until next time, this has been Done signing off.